Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Kate. I am one of the teachers at yourlessonsnow.com, and today we are going to be working on feminizing, sneezing, coughing, and clearing our throats. So stick around for some tips. Let's do this. For our thirst quenchers or big dog, little dog review, we are going to start by turning up the corners of our mouth, dropping our jaw ever so slightly, and putting our tongue, the tip of our tongue, right behind our bottom teeth, like so. If this is hard for you, practice going back and forth a few times. Great, now we're going to exhale almost like you're a vampire. It should be a very thin, high sound. Okay, big dog, little dog. We start with a relaxed laryngeal position, starting with a big panty dog. And we slowly turn into a tiny little purse puppy. All right, the first one we're going to be starting with is coughing. So first thing we need to do is raise up that larynx, creepy little kid breath, or use your big dog, little dog if that works better for you. First thing we're gonna do is start with a little whine when we're up here in this position. And if you're having trouble finding that position, I want you to think about you are a little kid and someone just stole something from you and you go, hey, that's mine. Hey. So we're in this high laryngeal position. We've got a nice narrow vocal tract and we've got a good space for our mouth as well. Now if isn't working, try ew. Ew, ew, ew. Good, try those a couple times. Ew. Okay, now let's try to add a little bit of a glottal attack to the beginning of that. Now let's shorten it way, and so it feels kind of more like it's getting to a spot where it's a cough. So you're gonna feel a little bit more of that hit of your vocal folds coming together. And a little bit less pitch at this point. We're just making sounds, we're not making pitches at this point. If this is feeling kind of hard, try to imagine it as a tiny, gentle throat clear, like this. Until you get to something that kind of sounds like a cough. Until eventually you might get something like this. Remember, while you're doing this work for coughing and sneezing and throat clearing, that sometimes we aren't always in control of it. They happen automatically. So just keep that in mind and be gentle with yourself as you're practicing these and starting to apply some of these techniques to your everyday practice. All righty, we are moving on to clearing our throat. You want a nice feminine throat clear. These are some really quick, helpful tips that I think will help. It's kind of like the coughing, except we're gonna shift it just a tiny bit. So same thing, we're gonna start with that higher laryngeal position, narrow vocal tract or narrow throat, and your tongue is just going to be ever so elevated. These are your teeth, your bottom teeth, and this is your tongue. Now I want you to take your hand and put it right above your belly, and we want to feel a little bit of a bounce where your diaphragm is contracting. And we're going to shorten up that as well. Take out the pitch. And start adding in a little bit more of a throat clear. We want to maintain that laryngeal elevation. That's really going to help us with our throat clear. Now, really important to note that this can be a lot for your body and your vocal folds. So I wouldn't practice these more than a couple times a day because we are taking our vocal folds and slamming them together, and we want to make sure that we're being gentle and careful with that. If you can avoid clearing your throat, I would highly recommend it unless it's absolutely necessary, because throat clearing can cause some vocal fatigue. So if you're experiencing a lot of vocal fatigue and you're clearing your throat a lot, those things can be connected. So just keep that in mind. This is a sometimes thing for throat clearing, but I would recommend just trying to get throat clearing out of your body routine. I know sneezing can kind of be another one of those automatic things, and we don't have a lot of control over it, but let's try a few of these tips and see if they help you at all. So first thing we're gonna do is start in a very similar laryngeal position to the other two that we just did. Ew, but we're gonna start on ew instead this time. Ew, ew, ew. Now you can add a little bit more of an A to it, but keep it nice and narrow. Ew, Now we want to try and add an chew to the end of it, but I want you to really challenge yourself to not have your lips move at first. Chew, chew, chew. Good. We want to keep that O nice and flat. Imagine that O vowel is very, very thin. That's going to be super important. Now let's add them together. Chew, 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 chew. Good. Now we kind of sound like a little tiny child when we do this, so let's add a little bit more of it to a little bit more air behind it to get that actual sound of sneezing. Achoo! 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 Good. Now, one thing that tends to happen when I work on this with my students is that their O, the oo of achoo, tends to get a little dropped. Achoo! Achoo! And we want to make sure that our lips are staying up and our larynx is staying elevated and the back of our throat is staying nice and thin. Achoo! Achoo! So do your best to make sure that your jaw is not dropping. Achoo! Achoo! But more staying forward and up like this. If you need to round your lips when you sneeze, that's totally fine, but we want to make sure that the back of that throat is still nice and narrow when you do it. So walk around, practice these when you can, and see how they help. Like I said, we have to be gentle with ourselves when we're doing things like sneezing, clearing throats, and coughing, because one, we don't want to over practice because that can cause some vocal fatigue, and two, we have to be patient because sometimes we are not prepared for things like coughing and sneezing before they happen. Don't forget to gently tap that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time here at Your Lessons Now. Bye everybody, have a good one.